Welcome to episode 312 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I'm your host, Ohio pharmacist Kim Newlove. I am excited about this episode. I've been excited to create this particular episode for a while, and it's finally here. Have you ever thought about being a guest on my podcast, the Pharmacist Voice podcast? If so, great news. I have created a formal guest application process. You'll find a link to the application form in the show notes and on my website under the podcast tab. Just look for episode 312. Why did I create this process? You're probably wondering. It's because I get pitched weekly. I appreciate the attention and the interest, but it's sometimes multiple times per week. And while I appreciate the interest, many pitches are not a good fit. Often it feels like people are cold emailing me or cold DMing me without knowing anything about me, my show, or my audience. The pitches are focused on them, their product, their service, or some sort of personal gain. It's not about you, my audience, when it comes to this kind of pitch. To make the process easier for everyone and to get guests who actually really want to be on this show and serve my audience, I've created a guest application form. And again, this is for serious applicants who are passionate about pharmacy topics or careers and want to provide value to my listeners. The guest application process is simple. 3 steps. Number one, fill out the Google form. I've got a link in the show notes to that. Number two, wait for an interview offer or a rejection message. And three, if offered an interview, respond to my email and we'll plan our podcast episode together. What's on the guest application form, you may be wondering? It's short. It's just 11 questions, and they are designed to identify the guests who align with the show's mission. Here's a quick rundown. Questions 1, 2, and 3 are name, email address, and country/time zone. Number 4 is going to take you a minute in 50 words or less. I need you to tell me what interested you in being on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Number 5 will take some thought as well. I want you to tell me why you want to be on the show, why, and how you'll help my audience. This podcast explores pharmacy topics and careers. The top 6 guests that I typically invite, as you can see by looking at my back catalog, are pharmacist podcasters, pharmacist authors, public health service commissioned corps officers, medication safety professionals, poison prevention educators, and advocates for autism awareness and acceptance. It's not on the form, but I am also interested in knowing which drug names that my audience struggles with. So, which drug names do you, listening to this today, struggle with? And in the past, I have had guests on the show to talk about the various drug names that they struggle with, or how they can help my audience, for example, to afford a particular medication, or maybe a medication safety tip about it. So, if that's you, please apply. Question number 6 asks which episode of the Pharmacist's Voice podcast is most similar to the episode that you want to create with me. Question 7 asks when do you want to be on the show? For example, if you have something to promote, like a new podcast or a podcast milestone, a book release, an important medication safety tip that's very timely, and so on, please mention an ideal date for the interview to publish. For example, I timed my interview with Greg McKettrick, RPH, for November to line up with Men's Health Awareness Month, and I published an interview in March with some poison prevention educators because it's National Poison Prevention Month in the United States in March. Timing's everything, and if you would like to be on the show at a particular time, please mention that as your response to question 7. Question number 8 asks for a short bio, 100 words or less, please. Question 9 asks for your primary website and your LinkedIn profile link. Question number 10 asks, which microphone do you use for podcast interviews? I prefer not to interview people who speak directly into a laptop. Audio quality matters. I want people focusing on what you're saying, not how you sound. Get yourself a mic or a headset, please. And finally, number 11. Question number 11 is an open mic moment, as I call it. If there's anything else you'd like to share, just let me know and keep it short. 100 words or less is ideal. That's it. Submit the form and I'll review it. If you don't hear back in 4 weeks' time, feel free to follow up at kim@thepharmacistvoice.com. Thank you so much for listening to me talk about my guest application process today. The process will help both of us. It ensures that I'm featuring guests who truly resonate with my audience and really value this podcast. Plenty of pharmacists have successfully pitched me in the past and made it on the show, so if you are interested, please apply today. Thank you for listening to episode 312 of the Pharmacist's Voice podcast. For the show notes, visit thepharmacistvoice.com, click the podcast tab, and find episode 312. In the show notes, you will find that guest application form link, my email address, my social media links, and more. If you know someone who would be a great guest for this podcast, please share this episode with them. And don't forget to subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist's Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today, and I'll talk to you next week.